Hi everyone, my name is Almaz
I'm Ashara.
And I'm Isabel.
and we're provisional psychologists currently studying at Monash University.
And this video is in partnership with Active Minds and is part of a larger series that provides mental health advice and support to help us through these trying times.
So this video, we are exploring how unmet expectations can lead to disappointments and how we can deal with that.
You're probably aware we are in the second stage of lockdown here in Melbourne. What are some of the emotional responses we may be having to this lockdown? Now, we probably don't need a psychologist to tell us this, but feeling anything from anger to distress to disappointment to just straight up sadness is all valid and normal. However, it's important that we consider, as with everything else, how these emotional reactions may be affecting us physically and what we can actually do about that. There's a lot of anticipation and hope around what our lives would look like post the initial isolation period. There's a lesson here around how unmet situational expectations can lead to us feeling a sense of despair and hopelessness that's hard to place and eventually overcome. Much like everyone else, you probably had some health related plans or goals that you were keen to get started on. Maybe meeting a new instructor, maybe getting in touch with your old one, starting a new group class, or resuming one that you were already a part of. All of these were dreams, aspirations, goalposts even, that served as motivation to get through what could only be described as a grueling few months. With a second lockdown, it almost feels like that all of this patience hasn't been rewarded. All of this is aside from the fact that there's a host of additional responsibilities we've been expected to undertake and excel at: homeschooling our children, working from home from a distance, and adhering to the strict social distancing guidelines, all of which are new to almost all of us. So rest assured, feeling like we've been dealt an unfair hand is a very normal reaction. What I'm not going to say is, hey, why don't we put all these unpleasant thoughts away? We're going to have a slew of them for the rest of our lives. Instead, as people committed to bettering ourselves and our overall health and well being, why don't we ask a better question of how we can get out of this uncharted territory? I'm going to start by saying something you've probably heard before. We're all in the same boat. All of us. You probably have more in common with all of your peers now than you ever have before. In fact, we can even see this as a unique situation for social connection. But social isolation keeps us from realizing that. So let's take a moment to sit with this uncomfortable, discombobulated feeling like we're all alone and there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. Let's sit with that. And I'm sure that my peers, Hashara and Isabel, have something to say that might help you get through this.
Facing home isolation is really challenging, and it is something most of us struggle with. The loss of social and family connections, touch and gathering can make us feel frustrated and even angry. One way to manage this is through practicing self-compassion. Self-compassion is about treating ourselves kindly and gently through adverse events like this lockdown. Forgiving ourselves for unmet expectations, giving ourselves encouragements, and generally just being mindful of how we think and what we say to ourselves. We can manage our disappointments through changing our inner critical self-talk by reframing our observations and our lives in a more friendly and compassionate way. Although we cannot change the reality we are in, we can change how we perceive it. In doing so, changes how we feel on the inside and eventually influences how we respond to those negative events in our lives. We are living in a time where changes occur daily, and while this uncertainty is uncomfortable, it appears to be our new normal at the moment. And being resilient helps us bounce back. Resilience is our inner resource that helps us survive, recover, and even thrive in the face of a misfortune. Resilience is about keeping things in perspective, maintaining a hopeful outlook, and accepting change as part of our living. Being flexible in our thinking to the evolving environmental circumstances increases our ability to survive and flourish to the best of our ability. Nevertheless, it is important to remember that resilience does not occur overnight. Instead, it is built up over a period of time. Hence, now more than ever, we need to be extra gentle, kind, and compassionate to ourselves.
As we approach the easing of restrictions, it's a good idea to be cautious about our expectations and plans moving forward. The current circumstances are quite difficult and uncertain, and with this uncertainty, we can feel like we have no control over what's happening to us. And how much control we think we have has a significant impact on our behavior and our attitudes towards the current situation. And then this does go on to impact on our achievements during this time. While your perception of your level of control does change between circumstances, it does sit on a continuum between internality and externality. When you believe in internal control, you tend to believe that your actions are actively contributing to your circumstance and how you're feeling in the moment. This tendency does also help with resilience because you're more conscious of your own actions and tend to be more accepting of change. When you're thinking with the mindset of external control, you tend to think that what is happening to and around you is not related to your own actions. And then you begin to think that you can't influence, you can't change the circumstances. So recognizing and accepting what is out of your control, such as the lockdown and the restrictions going on at the moment, and what is within our control, so our attitudes about the restrictions and the activities we get to do at home, can make a big difference and help provide some comfort during this time. So having short-term goals, either weekly or planning for 2 to 3 days at a time, gives us a bit more stability amid all of this uncertainty. And it's important to think about what achievements are realistic, and it's important to keep in mind that you may have to be flexible with your planning.
While these are certainly not all the techniques that you can use, we hope you're able to implement some of these changes in your everyday life to better deal with changing circumstances.
Above all, it's important that we support one another and keep in mind that we're all at different stages of our well-being journeys.
And always remember that some days are going to be harder than other days, and help is just a call away.